Hi Nathan, you all right?
Hello. How are
Hey,
you?
how's things?
Very good, man. Very good.
Thanks
Only
for.
good only good vibes here in Manchester.
we all need good vibes right about now, Nathan.
Yeah. Well, I'll try and give you some.
That's what we like.
How's things going down there just now?
To be honest, man, it's all right. I ignore the news now. I've got a rhythm to my days and my weeks. It is what it is. I kind of creating lots of nice little playlists and just I don't know really. I'm keeping busy, to be honest. I am keeping busy, but I've got 3 kids, and like we just did a big renovation on the house, and that's done.
Right.
So I feel like quite chilled now because that was quite stressful, and now I'm like back in my house and everything's kind of cool. So
Excellent.
How's the home?
Did
How's the homeschooling?
manage to get the renovation done before all this happened?
well, to be honest, it was planned last year, and then obviously we were going to pause it, and then the builder said he could do it, and we're like, let's just do it. So we just jumped in and did it. And even if all went wrong, I was still like, no matter what, I need to do it. So I just did it, and I think I trusted the universe was going to get me through it.
Happy days.
Yeah.
How's the homeschooling going, Nathan? Are you learning a lot?
For me, I think I realise now how badly I really did do at school. For me, I think maths. I mean, I can't even do year 5 maths, let alone bloody GCSE maths. So I kind of go a bit bamboozled at that point. But not really good, really, for someone who runs a business. But I think
You just delegate that.
well, adding it up, I'm fine. Adding and taking away, I'm fine with.
I'm just thinking there's an opportunity maybe to reach out to the genre music family and all the artists out there, musicians and DJs. I know it's a bit hard to call because it's uncertain times, but have you got any advice for them right now and possibly a glimmer of hope of what's coming in the future then?
Yeah, so if you'd asked me this in September, I might have just cried. But I think now, all I would say really to everyone is, keep creative. I think, keep getting your music and be ready. And I do think, to be honest, having spoken to some clients over the last kind of couple of weeks and reading a lot of the music news, more the news that I'm engaged with genre, it's hospitality news and engaging in that world, it's going to come back, and it'll come back strong. And I don't think it'll be a tsunami. It will still go back to a tier system and stuff, and we'll start getting some gigs. But I think once it comes back, we'll have a number of different types of opportunities. We'll have al fresco stuff because people want to do stuff outside. We'll have lots of kind of Friday and Saturday night. Every person will want to have something better than the other operator. A good analogy really for me is something I talked about the other day, because I've got a couple of new business things that are happening. One in Chester. We've got the Alchemist opening in Edinburgh.
Yep.
We've got the Ivy opening in Liverpool. There's stuff going on across the country that's still going to happen. We've got new sites in Sheffield that we're talking about, Exeter, all over the country. I think realistically, 21, 22, I think I'm already talking about 15 new venues opening across the country. So there's a bit of hope, because there's still a lot of stuff going on. And obviously, but when everyone opens, it's like everyone in that city is opening again.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to go, right, I'm here. Yeah. So their social media is going to be all over the place. They're going to all be competing. So whether it be Manchester Finest or Glasgow Independent and this and that, everyone's going to be talking about where to go, what to do, this and the other. Now, at the same time, there's loads of new openings happening. So every month in Manchester, there's probably 8 to 20 openings every month, generally just out of historic stuff. When COVID's finished, there's going to be 200 openings. Yep. So it's just like, right, okay, off we go. So True. I need to be ready for that. The genre database needs to be ready for that.
Yep.
So my advice would be, make sure your music's on point, make sure you've got a brand new white shirt, and make sure you're ready with your overture calendar, that it's updated as soon as they say when national restrictions are over. Although I will send a campaign to everyone.
Yep.
Most people will go, it's updated already, mate. Give me some gigs.
Yeah.
So, and then we'll be rolling again. And then the momentum of what we did before will kick back in, because at the moment we're doing bookings every month. Then it will roll back to 2 months, and we should hopefully see some kind of normality. It probably won't be on the same scale initially.
Yep.
But my goal is to get us back to where we were probably by the end of 2022, if I'm realistic, in the sense of the amount per week of booking. You know, but
that's positive. That's positive advice, right? And thank God we never got you on in September.
September,
different interview.
Well, also, because to be honest, I came back off furlough in September to do some work with Steve, and it was really hard because I was in the mindset of before we closed, obviously, and then I was speaking to clients, and no one knew what was going on. You know, I'm a very positive person. I've always been upbeat, and I'm always the optimist rather than the pessimist. It's where me and Steve complement each other quite well, because he'll analyze things in a more pessimistic manner. Doesn't say he's pessimistic, but he'll definitely analyze things that way. I'm more optimistic and sales focused, I suppose, in that way. It'll be all right, and da-da-da. But you need both yin and yang. But I think, it will come back, and it might not be 7 days a week in certain venues. It might be Thursday through to Sunday, or it might even be Friday and Saturday at first, or it might only be Saturday. But even if I can get Saturday night back everywhere, I know I've got a business. And if I can get Friday and Saturday night back, I know more people are getting more work and the business is growing again. And it just has to roll that way. And it just goes from there. And then there is, like I mentioned before, the new business opportunity that will lie. There'll be some people that, unfortunately, competitors won't have survived this. They won't. They will have decided for whatever reason that they can't carry on, or they've folded because they wanted to go into something new, or they've had to find something new to focus on. So there potentially might be opportunity for a business that we've been able to stay here because we're established well and we've been well managed and ran by Steve across these number of years. We've been able to survive, and I'm very proud to kind of be the person taking it forward once we come out of this. Something that I have done throughout lockdown is I've created an artist development course with Pete Goodin. So you might know Pete Goodin as a DJ, but we've been working on a project for about 3 years. It's called Q, and basically Q is in the Q button, but queue up your music, called Career. We're partnered with Point Blank. So Point Blank Music School and us, we've got a partnership together, and we do their artist development course. So it was supposed to go live last April in London as a course, and we were going to do our first course in the London College. And because of lockdown and everything, our main plan long term was to create an online course, which actually we did during lockdown. So our first one in September through to December, and our next one, the next course started last Wednesday. So another 10 weeks with another 8 students now. So it's amazing. So that's really, really something very positive that came out of, to be fair, being on furlough and also being in lockdown and going, because again, like we've got, similar to you guys, you've been doing this podcast, we've interviewed a prefla of the ecosystem of dance music and electronic music, whether it be agents in America or, we've got Fatboy Slim, Pete Tong, like Danny Howard, and key people giving their insights of the industry to the student, but that's through our online course. So because of lockdown, we got Simon Dunmore and Sasha sat in their houses just chatting to us. It's it's amazing, like the students have got all this amazing content, which we probably wouldn't have got, like Nicole Madaba never stops traveling. And then you get Nicole Madaba sat in her house and she's chatting for an hour about how she came into music, why she's a DJ, what she loves and her record label, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, it's very, very interesting. And the students are getting loads from it as well, which is really, really positive.
Yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like a great opportunity for the students that are involved with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, artist development, there's no magic kind of wand, unfortunately, to become famous. If I hate to use that word, but to kind of make it. But what we've tried to do is give them the knowledge of the steps that you should be taking to have a unique sound, to develop your brand, to kind of move things in the right direction. So once they've finished the 10 weeks, they've got the knowledge. They aren't searching around and making mistakes for 5 or 6 years. And I think one of the key things for me is music makers and producers, DJs, we spend a lot of time honing our craft, being able to DJ, being able to kind of use Logic and Ableton. We don't spend that much time developing ourselves and also what we actually are trying to project. And that's what the course is about, really. It's about what do agents look for? What do, like we've got Carl Lobin, who's the editor of DJ Mag. he tells us what he looks for in emerging artists, and stuff like that. And it's just really interesting and really insightful. You just see lots of light bulbs going off. You're on Zoom, you've got all the students, and they're just like, oh my God, that was like Dave Clark telling us about his record collection, But his record collection is about his history as a DJ. And then, it's just Dave Seaman's super articulate and very funny. It's like really interesting, like Bob Sinclair telling us about how he makes a hook. You're like, right, okay, and why he got into like certain music because of the type of scene he was into in Paris in the 80s. Yeah. And it just helps people think, well, actually, I come from, for example, Glasgow or whatever, and this is a scene I'm into, and this is the music I want to make. And actually makes them look within themselves to make unique music rather than just generic tech house or generic techno. That if you're copying someone, you're basically, a derivative of a derivative, really, rather than standing out. So it's good.
It's been quite limiting in some ways what's been going on like the past year or so, but it's opened up so many other opportunities because it's made people think outside the box, and people have that time to sit and discuss these sort of things and create these sort of chit chats.
100%. I think fortunately, I suppose Point Blank, who were working with a college, they didn't close. They just moved everything online. So yeah. And also it's global, their reach. They've got LA, Mumbai, China, and Ibiza as a college. So we know that the scope to do artist development is there within that. And we were quite fortunate to be able to do it.
That's been one of the good things for producers right now, is they've had so much time to just sit down and actually make music right now. So there is, like you say, so much music coming out right now, and really good high quality music as well.
Yeah, like anything, like Fortet's new album is like a masterpiece. If you listen to start to finish, it's kind of very clever, well produced, amazing music. It was always going to be good. But I think what has happened now, I'm listening to music in a slightly different way as well, because I'm not listening just for DJing. Yeah. I'm actually listening for my ear and what I want to kind of add to a little playlist that only me and my family are listening to because I'm just sticking on it at home. But it's kind of multi-genre wise, there's been a plethora of amazing stuff coming out. And I think once tours can start again and gigs can happen again, there'll be new music coming, but there'll be a whole bank of music this year that can be kind of then cycled into the system. Yep. And some producers have used it amazingly, and others, I'm sure, have become quite lazy. And, naturally, I think we've all had those peaks and troughs throughout this period, because you have those moments of still need to keep motivated and keep going. And then you have, I feel flat as a pancake. What's happened to my life? Right. And,
I mean, that's when you binge Netflix for about 2 weeks odd and then you get back to it again.
I don't really watch TV usually, but yeah, you're right. I think my missus, to be honest, and she's quite happy with me not going out every weekend. She's like, I really liked it. It's been great having you at home. And I was on a dog walk the other day, and I said, I've really missed DJing. I'm not going to be out all the time because I wasn't anyway. But I'm like, I need to. I'm really missing. I mean, I play at home, but it's just not the same. And even playing in the Ivy in Manchester or Tattoo, you just get the toe nods and the head nods, and then you build it up throughout the night, and then it just gets a bit more vibey. And generally, that's the environment I play in now. But I've also really been kind of dreaming of a club gig. Because I just want to hear a lot of the tunes I have been finding properly. Not in a kind of sedate, kind of chilled atmosphere, but in a come on, let's have that. If Ibiza does open this year, I'm definitely going to do a couple of more clubby gigs as well as my kind of bar and restaurant gigs I do over there, just because I kind of need to release it.
A lot of people are feeling that way as well, because there's that talk there's going to be a big boom. When things do finally start opening back up again, people are going to really be wanting to get right back out there again. I think there's going to be a really good atmosphere when things do start opening back up again.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so. And also there's going to be a hunger and desire for it. And I think the people are there, I think, I'm of a different generation of people that are going out clubbing every weekend, but obviously I'm still part of it with kind of my job and stuff and what I do across the two businesses I'm working in. But yeah, I mean, the global for me, electronic music, that's where, it's happened. That's what makes me vibe. And you need to hear it live. You need to hear it loud. You need to be in a crowd,
Yep.
you know, and just like, you know, again, going back to High, being there, wasn't last summer, the summer before, but for Black Coffee, and I was in the booth behind Black Coffee, and then we walked out into the crowd, and even the way he sets the scene in that club, you know, it's just like the dancers coming off the podium. To be honest, the rush of the music, I'm walking around with a bottle of Evian. I went to about 4 clubs that night because we were kind of bouncing from club to club on guest lists, and didn't drink, didn't do anything. We'd had a disco nap, and then we went out and had a party all night. And the energy from 7,000 people on the drops, on the lifts, you know, as the bass line comes in. And then I obviously go into crazy corner around where the toilets are in High, which is like the best nightclub in the world. I don't know whether you've both been, but
I've been out to Ibiza, no, but I never went there, no.
Yeah, so in there, it's the old space, obviously, but they've got the crazy corner, and it's basically the toilets. So down both sides is black cubicle doors.
Yeah, I have. That's right.
And then in the middle, there's a DJ booth, and Danny Tenaglia was playing in there when we went, and it was just crazy because the ceiling's really low. It's an LED ceiling.
Yep.
I took a little video because my missus wasn't with me. She was back in the UK at the time. Took a video of me going for a wee, and then I was like, "You won't believe where I am!" And then open this door, and it's just like, "Whoa!" And it's like
I remember going to Space. Was that what Space has become now? Then, Nathan, yeah.
Yeah, High is now Space. It's just a kind of.
Because I remember going to Space. I remember thinking
version. It is. I mean, it's a bit gentrified, but sound system wise, operationally, we went in and we went round the back, and then met the assistant manager, and she let us in through the back door, and this, that, and the other. And as an operator, it is so slick. I've got 7,000 people raving. It's kind of big deal. They've paid big money. They've paid big money for an artist, but as an operator, you think, wow, how are you doing this? Like, it's slick as anything. They've all got the headsets in. There's an emergency room there with a doctor in it in case there's any, it's just like, you feel safe, it's kind of like, it's good. But then, we'd done Pasha, we'd done High, and then we went to Heart as well and stuff like that. And Heart's quite a nice club. Again, the terrace there is really nice, and we bumped into a few people like Andy Baxter and stuff like that, DJs that we know. And
it's been a while since I've been out. Actually, it's been probably a good few years now. It probably was when Space was probably starting to come to the end last time I was out. And I remember seeing Carol Cox in there, and I remember thinking it's an ironic name, Space, because there's literally no space to move. So it's like you want to try and get to the front, you're not getting to the back again or for a couple hours.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I think for me, I've re-engaged with Ibiza in the last 5 years. I kind of did it as a 20-year-old. Yep. Then I lived in London at that time, so I didn't go that often then. I kind of went for holidays, and it was good, but I kind of did London a lot, and I kind of felt quite, happy just staying there in my 20s really much. Yeah. I missed out on that kind of I had my wife, which was fine. I didn't go out and do any seasons or anything like that. I just did the odd stuff there. Yeah, yeah. And then I took the kids out there 5 years ago, and then I think I must have been about 20 times since then, because just because I re-engaged with it. I've got friends who live there. I've got kind of a couple of nice little places I play at. They're not residencies because I just do them when I go, and I let them know I'm coming, and I'll do one gig on the restaurant I'm there, and I'll do a sunset somewhere else and stuff. But it's such a beautiful place to play music, and particularly now, like the age I am, like, because I've got a plethora of music I love, playing a sunset restaurant is just as good for me as playing a really amazing club, because it's just atmospheric. And particularly, as you know, what I do with genre music, it's about creating atmospheres with music. Yeah. Being able to soundtrack a sunset, or like I even did a yoga retreat, and like I'm quite into wellness and like that, living that lifestyle, but I did sunrise yoga. So I've got
Did you play Fatboy Slim?
No. Yeah, I played, but I did a house set. I did a typical kind of what you would find a Balearic house set, but for yoga at 7 a.m. in the morning. And the sun's coming up out of the sea behind me. Got 150 people on yoga mats. And the feedback I got after it, everyone was just euphoric. They were just
that sounds amazing.
It was like,
that sounds amazing.
It was amazing. And like the sun came up over the back of me, and like got some really nice shots and stuff like that from it. And just like everyone was just so complimentary, as if you'd just done a set in a nice club. You know, it's just like, oh my God, your set was great. Where do I find it? How can I download it? Da 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 da. And I was just like, this was great.
Nathan, see if this drags on any longer through into lockdown, you're going to have to do a yoga at 7 a.m. Zoom set, aren't you? Virtual concert.
Yeah, well, people have been doing that, haven't they? I think the Zoom thing for me and the streaming stuff for me, I think it was a bit overdone. And it was rightfully so. Everyone went, let me share my talent, let me share myself. But I think,
what mad.
Well, I think also the big boys who had the cash to put behind it have done it very, very well. So it kind of pushed everyone else away from dipping in. They've just gone, right, I'll go to, you know, the Hacienda one. I'll go to the Defected one. Beatport have done some really good ones. I mean, there's been some amazing sets.
Yeah.
As a DJ to go have on in the background and just be shazamming and going, oh, wow, music. And that's a brilliant thing because you don't always get that opportunity. One, because you haven't got the time to listen, you know, and very rarely, I kind of skip around, oh, you should listen to this mix. But because at the time, before lockdown, I was managing the team, I was managing my life, I didn't have much time. Whereas now I've been able to stick on something at home and actually listen to it. You know, and it's like, oh, right, that's really good. That DJ's brilliant.
I think you get caught up in the lifestyle quite a lot and you're just managing your time the best you can. But having this amount of time, you really can just sit down, relax and just soak up the music, can't you? And just really give it a proper listen.
I think you can get too absorbed in your own stuff, though, and that's the thing. And I kind of say it to DJs and producers all the time, like, please listen to other people's music. Please listen to, like, other people in your genre, you know, and mix with loads of tunes and then throw your tunes in, rather than they can become so kind of micro-focused on what they're doing, whether it be their DJ mix or their tune that they've made in the studio. Yeah. And then A-B it next to a label that they want to be on, let's say Hot Creations or something like that. Right, I really want to be on Hot Creations. Okay, well, why? Oh, because I love their label. Right, okay, so play your tune next to it. Like, do you really think that's signable yet? You know, or what's it missing? Why is it needed? And that's where the A&R comes in into saying, well, you know, your drums aren't good enough, you know, or but you just, when you totally micro-focus, I've done it before myself, and I remember my dad used to be terrible for it. I mean, he's no longer with us, rest in peace, but he's a drummer and an amazing musician. Brilliant. But he didn't listen to anyone else's music. It used to drive me insane. Like he had a recording studio, and I was in a band when I was very young, and we recorded there and stuff. And then I became a DJ. And I used to go to the studio, and then he'd get in the car. So he'd come out the studio, he'd download his DAT onto his cassette, then put it in his car and listen to it in the car. Right. And I'd be like, look, stick this on. And I'd maybe done a mix, like one of my first mixes, like drum and bass and whatever. Yeah. And he'd be like, oh my God, what's this music? It was like, because it's music that you don't get any access to. I suppose he was inspired in the 70s when he was starting out by Bowie and, you know, like Led Zepp, et cetera. Yeah. And then he went on his journey as a session musician and kind of was a very good drummer, but then got completely compressed into his own world and didn't actually look out. I remember introducing him to Craig David, and it wasn't even me because I like Craig David. He was on like some program on the telly. I said, oh, you really need to check him out. He's an amazing vocalist. He was like, oh my God, he is, isn't he? But he's like you're involved in music, but you don't actually absorb any other music. I think that's half the battle, isn't it? To write good music, you have to have that influence as well, don't you? And get pick pieces out from other songs and just inspire yourself. 100%. I honestly think that is one of the reasons my dad didn't make it, though. Because he was so, I mean, granted, you know, in this day, maybe Ninja Tune or Excel might have gone, right, that's weird and wonderful, and actually, he's totally his own artist, and this is what he does. You know, he's multi-instrumentalist and did some weird stuff before he passed away, but I think that was the chemotherapy. Experimental. But, you know, it was quite experimental and very ambient, and, you know, and he did do some gigs in Scandinavia at a festival and stuff like that. I was only in my 20s. I lived in London at the time, so I kind of was interested, but also like, you know, going on. But it's a shame that sometimes people do just get totally focused on their own stuff, and I think it's one thing you do need to do, and this time has been amazing for that, you know, just to absorb Netflix, great music, anything. Creatively, there's an amazing program on Netflix at the moment called Move, And I've just shared it to one of the artists I'm managing because he's writing tech house, but he's dance hall influenced. So he really loves like a ragga vocal, like suppose like, super styling and stuff like that, Groove Armada. He likes those hooks.
Yeah.
Well, what's that called, Nathan? Is that Move, did you say?
Yeah. So the third one in is about dancehall culture, and it's this amazing dancehall dancer. But some of the music in it is amazing. Yeah. I was there, stood next to my telly trying to Shazam, and it's like, does not recognise. I'm like, no, what is this tune? Because it's the bass sounds. It's like these bass sounds from dancehall, and if he can replicate those into tech house with that vocal line, he's got something really special. He's got something that, he can make a body of work with. It won't be boring, but it will also have this really cross kind of genre way of doing it. It's just clever, so I just take inspiration from everywhere.
So some of the guests we get on, Nathan, we like to always figure out where their influences came from. You're talking about your dad there and stuff. Would you say that was your biggest influence? And then where did your influence come in for getting into DJing then, yourself and A&R and that sort of thing? Where did it begin for you then?
So my mum and my dad. My mum's a singer, my dad's a drummer. So I was brought up around music. They split up when I was very young, but lived with my mum. So actually, my mum's probably the stronger kind of iron of music because she's so into music, and we used to I remember when it was just me and her, we used to just dance around the...
What was that clipped up?
She liked Bruce Springsteen and I ragged her for it and stuff like that. And then I got into like hip hop, like Run DMC, Public Enemy, etc., etc. She let me spray paint my wall in my bedroom and stuff like that. So she was open to like me being creative. She was open to be creative, and I had my lino, and I used to go on the park and break dance and stuff. And then when I got to school, it was the Manchester thing had happened, and I had loads of names written on my bag. So it was like Charlatans, Blair, EMF, Happy Mondays, and I'd like written them all on my bag as you do at school and stuff like that. And some kid came up to me, and I was a big footballer. I've always played football. Like I played like non-league most of my life, so I wasn't into kind of music for the rock and roll side of it. I just love music. So he came up to me and he was like, "Oh, we're starting a band. We love the fact that you've got all these names on your bag. Do you fancy coming to the rehearsal tonight and see what you want to do?" Because he obviously just thought, right, kindred spirit. He likes all the bands I like, so we're going to start a band. Now, he didn't know anything about my history whatsoever. So I rocked up at this rehearsal, and it's in my mate's house, and there's a drummer, and I was like, yeah, I'll be a front man, because I was very cocky and cocksure, and I'm still a little bit like that now, and wanted to be the ladies' man. So I thought, and I had my big mushroom haircut like the indie boy. I wanted to be Ian Brown, and I wanted to be, Tim Burgess from the Charlatans. So I was like, I want the girls. I'll be the singer. I said, next week, though, why don't we rehearse at my dad's studio? And they were like, what? So that's got a recording studio. So then from then, we became quite an efficient band because we had a proper rehearsal rooms and this, that, and the other. Right. And then, to cut a long story short, 5 years passed. We enjoyed ourselves and had the band, and electronic music started to feed into it all. Yeah. One night we were rehearsing, we had a city centre rehearsal rooms at my dad's studio, and around the corner was a couple of the clubs. Right. So we finished rehearsing, packed up the stuff, and went, right, let's go. And we were 17 at the time. We didn't know whether we were going to get in. And we got in. And it was Ian Ossier and Tom Wainwright playing. And Tom Wainwright lives around the corner from me. He's a good mate of mine now. I got in. So I got in. And I'm like, oh, my God, I got in. So I'm like, right, buzzing. And I just start dancing on this dance floor. And I'm surrounded by women wearing short skirts and high boots, looking at this guy doing this. And I'm like, oh, my God. I don't want to be a singer anymore. I want to do that.
Brilliant.
And then I got my first Dex, and that was like 17. And then because my mum was connected and my dad was connected in Hull, I could DJ in clubs because I knew the club owners and stuff like that. So I started DJing pretty much straight away in back rooms. And my sound then was kind of hip hop, reggae, and jungle. I kind of had a fusion sound of just bass. I just loved like bass sounds and rhythms. And then learned to mix really on vinyl using drum and bass, and jungle became massive at that time. I worked in a record shop and then carried on my journey with that really. I moved to London, worked at Tower Records. I became the buyer for soul and dance at Tower Records. That then I wanted to work in music. I went to interviews at EMI. I went to interviews at labels. I did some time at Kudos, which is the distribution company, and learnt about stuff. And then I kind of hit my head against a brick wall. I was like, I'm not getting anywhere with this, you know.
Yeah.
As a lot of people do in their early 20s, you have this dream. And then, to be honest, it was pretty shattered, my dream. I'd moved from Hull, left all my mates. I was just there with my missus, which was great, but like starting this new life, thinking it was going to be something it wasn't. Yeah. And then ended up like going, what am I going to do in my life? Really, at that point, I was still DJing a bit, but I was just like, I was totally disillusioned. I thought, you know, it's just not, I was totally switched off I was disillusioned initially when I got there, when I thought I was going to be famous, because I was a big fish in a small pond in Hull. Everyone knew me. I was the DJ everywhere. Then I turned up in London. I was no one.
Start again.
And it was hard. It was very hard. But it was quite trying. And then I got on a Sedition DJs as an agency, which I got put onto. And I worked with them. I did Tear Mills and I did The Egg and places like that. And then, it's The End, actually. And then we had a baby. And I was like, oh, God.
Priorities changed.
Well, no, but it did. And to be honest, at the time, I'd already done a personal training course. I was already working in a gym and DJing. Yeah. And then I kind of focused on my career in health and fitness. So I did. I worked right up the ladder to wearing a suit and still DJing a little bit, but not really. And then by that time, I had 3 kids, and I was like, oh, my God. And at this point, I'd lost 10 years of life, really. We moved back up north. And then I was 35, so this is 8 years ago now. And then my brother died 10 years ago. No, it was 10 years ago. My brother suddenly died. He was 21.
All right.
And it was sudden, you know, it was an aneurysm. He passed away overnight. I was talking to him on text one time, gone the next. It was horrendous, obviously. You know, imagine something like that happening. It just is horrendous. And we've all lost people in our lives and stuff. But it was a massive shock for our family. Yeah. But then for me, it was probably, and I hate saying this in some respects, but it's probably my brother would also think it's positive. It probably changed my life in a positive way, because I then reconnected with DJing. I reconnected with making music. I reconnected with myself, who I actually wanted to be. And
so it's kind of events that start to put things in perspective as well and make you look at things differently.
Well, you know, because if it is texting him about Hull City playing, and then the following morning I can't follow it up going, they played shit because he's gone. It was like, oh my God, life can turn itself that quickly. Yep. And why aren't I pursuing what I love? Yeah. I'm actually doing something now I did enjoy health and fitness, don't get me wrong, because I've already enjoyed keeping fit, etc. But I'd got very bored of it because I was just doing the same thing all the time. I was managing a health club. It was very easy wearing a suit and walking around telling people what to do. But when I left, or when I sat on the train, I was making a mix on Tractor online or whatever. And I was like wanting still to be that DJ. Yep. And that's again why I reconnected with Ibiza, because I needed some inspiration. And I was like, I just need to go where the music is and where people understand me. Yeah. And it was amazing because we started a club night in honor of him, but also to raise some money for a foundation we set up, which then became a club night, which is still running now in Hull. It's still, it's 10 years old, and I'm not really that involved anymore. But when I go back to Hull, I play it, and, we do the birthday parties and we do festivals and bits and pieces with that club night that we created out of it. Yeah. And reconnected with lots of kind of kindred spirits that were the same. And then I moved to Manchester and I joined Genre as a DJ. Yep. And then it's really focused my mind. Mm. It's really kind of, and then,
when you're younger, you can get blinded by the chase of the fame or the chase of just the overnight kind of quick fix kind of lifestyle, isn't it? Whereas I think when you regroup, it's more the journey and the connections and the memories. When you think about it, it's that journey that people enjoy more than chasing those goals and maybe possibly not achieving them.
100%. And I think, I'm terrible for that. I mean, particularly when I was younger, I'd give myself unrealistic goals, unrealistic targets, fail, get really pissed off at myself, then lose total motivation. We've all done those gigs where we've said, I'm never DJing again. Yeah. Simon Dunmore's done them. We've all done them, and I feel more proud now playing at Hostel La Torre in Ibiza, still playing the music I love and going, thank God I didn't give up. This because it happened, you know, and actually I can see me doing that for the next 10, 15 years, you know, just enjoying playing amazing music and music I love and sharing it with people. And I think it really centered me. It's given me the motivation to join genre, become, you know, I'm going to become the MD, and then we take this genre forward once it comes back out of lockdown. I've met some amazing people along my journey, like Pete Goodin, who I've obviously got the business at Q with, and we worked with Point Blank. So, you know, in the last few years, I've been able to go to IMS, to ADE, all of those conferences, but actually as someone who is potentially talking in one of the seminars or knowing people, you know, like, and that's what I wanted when I went to London in my 20s. That's what I wanted to be doing. And yes, it's taken me 23 years to get there, but fundamentally...
You met us as well, Nathan. You met us. That must be a highlight.
It is a massive highlight. Yeah, no, definitely. No, but, you know, joking aside, the interviews of doing genre and working with such amazing creative talent across the country is an absolute inspiration. It really is. And like, I'd say it's probably the high that I get from the job is one, meeting people for that first time in an interview is great because we are kind of like-minded people, and we're kind of a minority out there because there's quite a lot of pop music fans. But you know, but it's nice to meet people creatively and talk about gigs and clubs and music that they've loved. And you know, I know you've been on. We talked quite a long time, didn't we, when we met you? And you know, talked about the hardcore scene and stuff like that. And it's just inspiring where people come from. And then seeing it actually come to life of people doing the residencies and then becoming mates, really, rather than, you know, I don't really see anyone as an employee because everyone's self-employed. But I think I have got some very key relationships with a number of our genre roster, musicians and DJs, that, you know, I do class as mates. I don't see them as, you know, anything other. And that's amazing for me because my network has grown naturally. I've got people in London, in Glasgow, in, you know, York or wherever it is that I can really see that, you know, I've got friends for life in essence from doing this job. And music does bring people together. I know it's very cliche that, but the thing is the commonality of people and dancing together or, you know, all those things. And
do you know what also brings people together, Nathan? Getting very drunk the night before and leaving your headphones in the Pirate Studios. And then and then having to go back and try and find them again and then bumping into someone else.
That's true, isn't it? That is actually how we met, actually, wasn't it?
That's what it was. John will back me up on that one. I got a bit drunk and I left the headphones on the mixer. We walked out. I realised what's that, John?
Cannot take you anywhere.
I realised I don't drink.
I think I realised.
I'd still be in Glasgow if I drank.
It was about 3 days later. I looked in the headphone case and I was like, I never put my headphones in this case, did I? And I thought I better go back in the hope that they're there. And there you were, Nathan, sat in that booth doing interviews.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
So when you're doing these interviews, Nathan, you speak to a lot of musicians and DJs. What is it you're kind of looking for when you are interviewing people to maybe add to the roster and things?
I think, you know, professionalism. You know, for me, I think no matter what industry you come from, is being switched on. You know, I think, you know, and passionate. So professionalism, passion, pride in what they do, you know, those three things for me. I think I then know that if I've met someone, they can articulate themselves to me in a good way, in a professional manner. They can use equipment properly, you know, and again, in a professional manner that, you know, sending people to do gigs in venues where, you know, it's expensive equipment, you know, and I'm not to say that someone unprofessional would ruin it, but I think just being able to hold themselves professionally, you know, how they look, how they sound, and what they can do with the equipment is very key. Passion for what they do, you know, an understanding of the music brief, for example. So, you know, a DJ really being into soulful house and, you know, loving the fact that they're doing an Alchemist brief is, you know, amazing for me, you know, because I actually know, you know, they're going to do a better job than me. And that's kind of what you want to recruit. You want to recruit people who are going to do as good or far better job than you would think you could do. Not to say I could do it, but what I think that I could do. And then, you know, that kind of pride in their work as well, in the fact of, you know, just showing up, and doing it properly. We all have our lapses. We do. We all get drunk in Pirate Studios and leave our headphones and stuff like that. We all do have our lapses.
It all turned out for the best, Nathan. It all turned out for the best.
But, joking aside, I think, taking pride in yourself, and this comes from wellness as well. If you look after yourself and take pride and love yourself, then that feeds out to everyone else. So, a DJ turning up to do the Ivy, and I think, I've got someone, Tony in Oxford, he's exemplary with that manner. He turns up, he looks the part, he plays the music, he deals with the management team correctly, deals with the customers correctly, and I know he's bang on brief. So, right, okay, of course I trust him to do a booking, and that's just one example. I could pick another 100 examples,
There's a massive level of trust involved because they're representing the agency or genre music in that way, to actually just let us, for talking sake, go out and represent you guys. There's such a level of trust there to know that people are carrying themselves well, because it's reflecting back on you guys, really. So that's massive.
Yeah, totally. And, I'm the one who has to deal with the manager when they're annoyed. It's not generally the DJ or the musician. Yep. It's an email at 1 o'clock at night saying da-da-da-da-da, or it's a phone call the next day, or it's a phone call even on the night, and I have had those situations. And, whether it be through them having a lapse of professionalism or whether I just recruited the wrong person, because obviously we do recruit a lot of people, and in an interview, you try and do as best as you can to gauge that person, but you're not always going to be 100%. We have had, some people cause me some stress, should we say, on a weekend. My patience isn't very good with those people. My wife winces in the corner when I'm on the phone, and she's like, "Oh my God, you were so harsh." And I'm like, "Don't care." I've never missed a gig in my life, and I haven't. I've never been late for a gig in my life. And there was a few years ago when I first kind of was DJing an awful lot. I think I did about 150 gigs in a year. So that's half the days in the year I did a gig.
Wow.
And didn't miss one. Didn't turn up late for one. Played the right brief for all of them. Worked with the management team and the customers on every single one. And that's why I got 150 gigs. That's the reason. Because the managers trusted me. That's why I got a phone call on a Sunday night saying, "Manchester City have just won the league. We need a DJ in an hour. Can you get there?" And it was me who they rang. Because they knew that they'd get the service they wanted. they didn't have to think about it. It was just going to happen. So,
that's advice right there, I think, isn't it, really? what to aim for?
Well, it is, because, it doesn't matter what level you are as well. I think, there is something, again, I've learned from doing across, I suppose, the two worlds, in the sense of genre music. We do amazing residency bookings across the country, and we've got an amazing roster of talent for live music and DJs. And then going into kind of the world of the music business, which I've had to go into for Q, it's just the same. Yeah, it's just the same. You've got to show yourself properly. You've got to show up and do the right job. And, if you're a good person and you're willing to work hard, you will carve your way some way into how you want to make this career. And we're all still hustling. We're all still doing our thing. And, that's just how it is. But, the people that don't really do that well, they generally end up...
you crazy?
Well, no. Well, if it was for me on my roster, I do give people chances. And to be honest, sometimes I've given people so much rope because I'm a person as well. I'm not just a robot who's just going to go, "You did wrong." If someone says to me, "Look, I made a mistake. I'm really sorry. I hold my hands up. Can you give me another chance?" I'll be the first person to try and give them another chance. Sometimes it's a manager saying, "I don't want it back," or "don't want them back," or whatever. And you just go, "Well, actually, my hands are tied." And I have, to the detriment of maybe myself, put myself in a position where I've still trusted that person because I've willed it to be, because I've thought they're a good person or whatever. But, there's also an amount of talent out there that if someone's messing you around, like, there's plenty of other people who want to pick the ball up and run with it because, there's a whole world of people that are wanting to do that. So I think it's a balancing act, really, of understanding people as a person and then also what service you want to get from them. And then fundamentally for us, just for like what we do with you, we send you a booking, you accept the booking. For me, because I trust what you guys do, I know it's going to happen. Now, if something untoward was to happen, it'd be a shock for me. I'd be like, what happened there? Because it would be so out of character.
Get drunk again.
Yeah.
Hey, can I just say that only happens in the pirate studios? me and John only drink iced teas at the Ivy, don't we, John? Iced teas.
There's lovely iced teas too.
They really are. If you're going to the Ivy,
get us an iced mint tea and sparkling water for my sets. Yeah.
No, but we're extremely thankful, Nathan, for setting us up with that and just that chance meeting and where it progressed to, and we take real pride in turning up. Me and John, it's a real passion to go and play the music in the Ivy especially, so we're really looking forward to getting back out and kind of representing the agency again, so we're definitely thankful for the chance that you and the faith that you've put in us to go out and do that for you guys.
No, thank you for saying that. I mean, for me, I want to grow in Scotland, so there's another conversation to be had potentially.
Yeah.
But there is, because I think particularly in Scotland, it was so heavily affected by the lack of music. There's a huge opportunity to talk about music and get music going there, because atmospheres were so decimated by no background music. It became such a talking point. That's never actually happened in the UK, where they've just turned it off. But obviously atmospheres have gone because they've got rid of live music or DJs, etc., or they've turned the volume down so much that it's kind of not worth it. But for Scotland, I think in Edinburgh and Glasgow particularly, there's opportunity for what we do on a bigger scale. Not just at the Ivy, but we have got The Alchemist is opening in Edinburgh in 2021. Mm-hmm. So that'll be great. We've obviously already got the Ivy there. We've got Tattoo there. Yep. But we have had other clients there, and because the manager's moving and stuff like that, I need to spend maybe some more time there. And that's kind of, for me, we need to get ourselves back to where we want to get to as genre, and hopefully with our main clients we'll be able to fulfill what we need to kind of carry on and then look at the next step. But for me, I think Edinburgh, Glasgow, Leeds, Birmingham, London, they're my 3 areas of growth really, because 4 areas of growth, because we've got standing in those cities, but not the same as Manchester and Liverpool, for example. And we've got an amazing roster of talent in those areas as well that could be utilised across different venues and different genres, etc. So I think it's a bit of a scope. And when I'm writing my new business plan, I don't want to be too ambitious in the sense of I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this, and do every city. Mm-hmm. But I am going to focus on the key cities where we've already got rosters of talent, and also there's a hunger for what we offer, because there's operators there that operate at a high level. Mm-hmm. And obviously what you need is clientele to be going to those venues, so then they can afford to have entertainment. Yeah. Can we be managing that for them? Potentially, because we do it well. You've seen it from the side of an artist. The managers, they get a PDF with everyone who's playing. Yep. It's all nicely managed. They only have one point of contact, which is me. They don't have to mess around with anything else, and it happens. So it's generally quite a nice fluid way of working.
We'll always support you guys, definitely happy to support you guys, what you're doing in that, and you've got a bit of a contact up here in us and things like that, Nathan, so we're looking forward to catching up in more positive times ahead, I think. Actually getting back out again,
only good vibes.
Have another catch up again, have another chit chat, because I was looking at Facebook today, and ironically enough, there was a memory flashed up, and it was me and John, and it was the saxophone.
Oh yeah, was that the saxophone one?
I was Sam Irvin, and I was looking at it thinking, of all the days Nathan's coming on and this memory comes up on Facebook, I'm thinking, I just want to get back out of the Ivy again, that way. It was like,
because we turned up that night, we hadn't realised the saxophone player was going to be there, so it was like a total bonus for us. We were absolutely loving, enjoying the music and having the saxophone player playing alongside us.
That was
some
brilliant.
DJs love it and other DJs hate it. I think it's about, again, same as anything, communication with them, and just going, right, this is what we're briefed to do, this is what you're doing. And also then venue management. I think DJs have it a lot easier than live musicians, because we can put a tune on, we can walk around, we can listen to it and, spatially listen and go, right, it's too loud in that area, it's not loud enough here. For the manager, it's quite hard as a solo guitarist to do that, because they get set up and they start playing, and you kind of trust in the managers to understand the sound a little bit. But generally play quite well. But, it's kind of, working with people, I've never, I've always enjoyed playing with percussionists and saxophone players and violinists, but it's about communication. I might say, violinists, I'm going to play quite spatial music for your half an hour sets. Then soon as their last one's finished, then I go into something more vocally or whatever, because you can. Whereas some DJs just don't even think like that. They just go, right, I'm going to play what I was going to play, and they'll just have to work with it. And it's kind of you just have to think a little bit.
Try and play saxophone to this jungle. Go on, give it a go. Just not change the mindset.
Well, liquid drum and bass is quite jazzy, so you never know. You can maybe get them doing it. So.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the that Q program as well as before you go, Nathan? That sounds like a great program. How can people find out more about that?
So Q Artist Development, if you go to the Point Blank website and to the online courses, you can search Artist Development, and then you can book our course there. So there's 3 more this year. So there's one in April, and we've got 20 spaces for that. And then we've got one in July, and then we've got one in September. Mm-hmm. So they run 4 times a year. We do a 10-week program. There's a masterclass every week, and then you have one-to-ones every other week as you progress down the journey. So, and it's really structured regarding, we do my musical DNA really initially. So who you are, what music has influenced you to where you've got to today, then as a producer, and then kind of daily habits, creative kind of blocks, etc., how to get out the funk of those things. Then we go into branding, and we talk about artists as a brand rather than just as a producer. And then we talk about social media and the kind of message there. So we do a lot of work on all that side of things. And then when's the best time to build a team? Because these are all the questions that people have. They're like, oh, right, I've done 2 gigs, I've done 2 festivals, right, I need an agent, or I need a manager, or I need this, that, and the other. In essence, the 10-week course helps you DIY definitely the start in your artistic career once you know how to make music. So generally, it's not a production course in any way. We had people who come on it really need to be at a certain level with their DJing production that they now want to start getting records signed, or they might have even had some records signed, but then staggered with this kind of what's not happening next.
Yeah, get that momentum going.
Yeah, so, or they might need a rebrand, or they might go, look, I've released 4 tunes with this label, but I'm not aligned with that at all anymore. So I want to change my name, and I want to go and do a different pseudonym, and this is what I want to do. So it's kind of for those people. And then when they kind of come to the end, really, it's kind of putting a plan together. So, you know, your goals, your future is what we call the last masterclass. And the last masterclass really is about the next 12 months after that masterclass. And throughout the period of the course, we talk about labels that you want to be aligned with, the ecosystems you want to work within, etc. The masterclasses are 2 hours, and in every masterclass, there's around 45 minutes of expert content from the videos, like I mentioned before. But we've asked them the questions of that masterclass. So it might be like we've got, you know, Micah from Beatport, who's based out of Berlin, talking about what makes a Beatport chart and what makes a Beatport, you know, highlight, and how you would get that as an emerging artist, and how you would potentially post up onto your, you know, your chart in certain groups so you can get better uplift. We've got phenomenal input. That's really Zamfa, you know, we've got Zamfa from Mixcloud again. We've got like an extra content. There's loads of extra content as well, which is like how to use Mixcloud properly as a DJ and producer, you know. And it's a 25-minute video of her talking, and she's like head of community at Mixcloud. So it's like you know, just the way, little tricks really, like with social media, little tricks of how to kind of use, you know, certain things. We're not social media kind of experts. So what we do, we've got, you know, Jam from Anglo Digital, which is one of the big digital agencies. They manage Pete Tong, Fatboy Slim, etc., etc. He talks to her for 20 minutes about using digital media, social media as an artist. Wow. So I'd like to say, like, you just see light bulbs, you know, but it's amazing.
Like you guys have went all out. You've put something quite special together there by the sounds of it.
No, it is. To be honest, it's got so much potential to really help so many people. And the thing is, me and Pete's obviously had a different trajectory with his career, and actually had a very successful career. Obviously, did a lot of the Cafe Mambo albums and all of that, and he's released around 200 records throughout his career, and he's toured the world. You know, he's done a lot of DJing. He's also made an awful lot of mistakes, but you know, he's been working on the management team of Blondish, Black Coffee, Martinez Brothers. He's got his artist Timber. So all of that real-time information is no different for an emerging artist. It's just how you learn it and what you need to do. So whether you're in a production meeting for Black Coffee or it's a production A&R meeting for a new artist, you're still listening to the track and giving it an A&R on it. You do some A&Ring on it, so they have to create a body of work and then submit 2 to 4 tracks by Masterclass 8, and then we A&R it and we'll say what we think and et cetera, et cetera. So, and what we've kind of done leading on from the 10 weeks, purely because we got asked about it, we've done a 3-month mentoring afterwards if people want to do it, and also if we feel they're at the right level. So we have got 6 students who have done the first course now. They're continuing the journey for a further 3 months now on one-to-one level. So they're going to get, a lot more A&R work. And actually, realistically, I think out of the 6, 4 of them will be releasing music by the end of the 3 months, 100%. And like to key labels, like Hot Creations and Dirty Bird, like big labels with really, really solid releases. So, but it's amazing because like one guy from South Africa, one guy from Vienna, one guy from England who lives in Mallorca. I've got an Australian student. It's not UK based, it's global. So like this course, we've got a girl from Turkey on it and she's making kind of nice soulful house. And then you've got a girl from, where's she from, Ukraine, who makes again kind of like techie house. But the last course, we had a trap artist, a dubstep artist, a techno artist. It was amazing because you're learning all the time, even from the students, just about all this amazing music that's out there, and like all these record labels we didn't even know existed, that are their target record labels and stuff like that. So
that's one of the things you found just through interviewing people from around the world as well. What's happening in all these kind of different areas around the world? It is quite eye-opening what's happening in other places.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think also particularly with COVID, because everyone's at different stages with it. I think one thing that we've kind of coined a little bit through this is an emerging artist feels like they're in isolation all the time because you're trapped. As an emerging artist, you're sat in your studio, you're listening to all this produced music, you're watching Michael Beebe on Instagram, DJing in Tulum, going, oh, I want to be the Michael Beebe. And you might want to get your record signed to Michael Beebe's label. But the thing is, how do you then get there? And that's the thing. It's like, and with lockdown, we've all been able to question how we're working, our creative spaces, what makes us tick better. If you're thinking about it, not many people, not everyone does. I do. I'll go on long dog walks, listening to some tunes. I'm like, right, am I being productive? And also for me, it's going to be quite hard ramping back up because I've had this kind of quite mellow period of a lot of thought, a lot of kind of time putting into kind of what's the future of genre music? How does that look? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What do I actually want it to be? And then right, okay, we've got an online course. I can manage it all from home. I don't actually have to spend a massive amount of hours on it at the moment because we've now created it. But how does it then develop? And what does that look like moving forward? Again, like I said before, the inspiring thing is just meeting like-minded people. You're on a Zoom call and it's just like, wow, these people are like, some people have produced for 15 years. Other people have only done 2 Ableton courses and they're now making amazing music. We've got this guy in Iran who's 18 and like, oh my God, his like production is just like amazing. You're like, are you really 18? We've actually sent him loads of things to do, like to try and kind of think, is it actually him doing it? He's just like, I was just like, oh my God.
We need some evidence.
Yeah, we need some hard evidence here. Yeah, he's like, he'll turn up like on the call, like big beard and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, I'm like, all right, okay, fair enough.
You've definitely sold it, Nathan. Where do we sign up? Can we start right now?
On this call right now.
Can you add this into the homeschooling?
Well, the thing is, I think for me, I've never been a tutor, but I'm passionate about what I do. And point blank saw that. We wrote the course and it comes from real time kind of evidence of what Pete's been doing with actual artists. And then I helped pull it together into a 10-week program. And then we're now doing it. And the biggest result is the students absolutely love it and they're getting everything they need from it. And they're so inspired. And even if we inspire people to give up because they realize it's going to be really hard work, you still might not make it, even though you put all this time and effort in, then they haven't wasted another 5 years of their lives. They've gone, actually, I want to go into sound design instead, or I want to do this instead, or I want to do club nights instead. Like we've got Gary, who used to be the head promoter for Pasha. and he kind of nails it, like in just such a British manner. It's just like, it's like, you've got to have the passion to stay in this business, otherwise you're going to fail. And you're like, oh my God. And he's like, he looks like a big burly bouncer.
Yeah.
Like,
but that just answers questions that people just probably don't have access to asking anyone about those sort of questions. And also the social media world is so fast moving music now, isn't it? If you're not moving in the right direction at the right time, you can kind of get left behind quite easily in this sort of day and age in music, eh?
Yeah, well, one of the big questions is, do I need to have social media? And the thing is, yeah, but then how do you make it interesting content? How do you make it engaging content? Yep. I've learned loads of what I can do with genre music side of things as well. Watch those videos myself. I mean, particularly the more businessy ones, I mean, we've got, just some amazing interviewees on the course that every time I watch them, something else picks up and you're like, oh, right, of course, yeah. And you just find ways of being able to be inspired by those things. And I think all you can do is kind of, I mean, for me, it's kind of personal development for artists. That's kind of what it is, because that's what we've created. We've created this kind of toolkit and a journey you can go on to really put things in perspective so you can actually have a good shot at it. Yeah. Who doesn't want that? It's just like, right, okay, like, this is a good guide, so yeah, we'll see how this year goes. We only did our first online course September to December. It was amazing. We've just started our new one. We've got 10 in April. We'll go up to 20, and we're kind of doing it slowly but surely as well, because we want to be able to give the service that we want to offer. Yeah. And I've also got genre music to focus on, so it has to be
one of those things that when people start coming out the other end of it and get the results and stuff, and people see the results they're getting, more and more people will take notice of that as well, and people start flocking towards it more.
Yeah, well, the social media launches next week, and we haven't even launched it yet, because Point Blank, I mean, I'm very fortunate to have a partnership with Point Blank. They're the biggest music school for electronic music globally. Mm-hmm. So they do an amazing degree course structure. They do all of these other courses, and we're now a course within their whole world of what they do. Mm-hmm. So we're very close with Rob, who's the MD of Point Blank, and he's really proud about putting this together as well, and really kind of backs us up to do this course. And that's given us the platform to launch. Mm. And, we should have been talking at IMS last May, whether we'll do IMS Malta this year, if that can happen in September. We might do IMS College, and then we might do ADE, again, depending on what happens. And the social media, all of the talks, whether it even be at Brighton Music College or, wherever it is, conference, then that will grow what we're doing. And because it's online, it's accessible. You can sign up and not even watch the live masterclass. You can go back and watch it again, and then still do all the exercises. Because again, there's quite a lot of work involved. There's an Excel sheet, there's mind mapping, there's creating playlists, there's doing DJ mixes, there's a whole kind of Pinterest boards, Instagram accounts, like loads of stuff. Yep. So there's a 2-hour masterclass, but then you have to go away and work for 10 to 20 hours to actually do the stuff. And that's, if you're going to make it, you've got to put the time in, and how many hours do we put into making a track? Just one track alone, 100 hours, sometimes, and that's a good track, maybe time. So would you put 100 hours into developing the other side of the music? And that's really what we're tying together really with it. So
how do you go about getting a sunrise set at a yoga retreat for 150 people? Sounds like the best gig ever.
You've made it. You've made it.
Well, this is something, again, is a cliche. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah. That's the best advice all night, I think, right there.
Networking. Yep. With yoga instructors, eh? So there's a new market for us all to start networking with. But, fundamentally, I think, that came from doing a sunset set in a restaurant, but then being introduced to someone at that set from a friend. And that friend worked in health and fitness. Obviously, I used to work in health and fitness. We started talking. Yep. That was in the April, so that was in the Easter. And by the October, we'd made it happen. And, my wife came with me. She came to the retreat. I did 6 gigs, I think, across 4 days. But I did because I do music for dance meditation as well with the same instructor. So I curate the mixes and stuff like that. And that's another product that will be coming out this year. more for the wellness market, whereas I'm curating the music as a DJ, and then she's doing the meditation over the top, but she does it as dance meditation. So kind of wellness market is very interesting musically. I'm definitely going to focus on it within what we do in genre as well.
Nathan, even on lockdown, you're a busy man. You always got something going on.
Yeah,
my head hasn't popped off yet, but yeah, it might do.
I think the wellness has really come to the forefront of what everyone's been living through recently as well, haven't they? It's made everyone just regroup and evaluate things a little bit differently. So there's probably something to be said about the potential of more wellness-based music events then. Yeah,
I mean, Gym Box in London does DJs in their gym on the cardio floor. It's like a nightclub. So, you know, that's a market alone. Then there's the wellness retreat side of things, whether you're doing sunrise yoga, like, you know, playing Niels Fram for a candlelit yoga at the end of the night in the corner, sat on your decks, playing amazing ambient music and just soundtracking that moment. Or you're doing ecstatic dance meditation music, which is pretty much club music, but done a little bit like Morning Gloryville. You know, it's a club without the other stuff that goes in clubs. But, you know, it's kind of, but the wellness market is also populated with people now, I suppose, who are 25 to 45, really, who it's the other side of the culture, particularly in Ibiza. There's a lot of, like, Pikes has got a yoga kind of pod in the garden now, and they do yoga every morning for the guests and stuff like that. And that's Pikes.
Yeah.
Pikes is hedonism and bohemianism and let's go crazy. And you've got Midland playing on a Sunday afternoon in the poolside, and then it goes off in a little Freddy's room. But actually in the morning you can wake up and go do some yoga. It is part of the scene now. And, you know, I think because I've always been involved in it, I've got a lot of interest in it, and also I've got a lot of experience within it. So I definitely see where there's some synergy working wellness and music, definitely, whether it be playlisting, whether it be DJs or even live music, you know. And my dream, which I am going to do, is get us a contract in Ibiza. I'm 100% going to do it. I've been trying to do it for years. And I am going to do it. I'm going to persist, and I'm going to get a hotel group in Ibiza, and I'm going to get some DJs work there, and I'm going to get some live musicians work there. And whether that be local talent or whether that be people from our roster in the UK who can go out and do certain stints. But there's a market for us globally, genre music globally. There's a market. It's building back the business back up, and then building the right strategy about how we can then be in key destinations. You know, again, when I went to ADE, you got DJs playing in all the restaurants, you got DJs playing in all of the hotels. Obviously, it was over the conference, so a lot of people will have sourced that locally. Amsterdam, we could nail. You could actually nail it. It's no different to Leeds City Centre. It's no different to Manchester City Centre. Get a roster of good DJ talent, book them in to do the job. You see it.
I think, like you said, it's a great opportunity possibly for that now, because a lot of competitors probably have went by the wayside a little bit. Maybe it's time, could be a good time for you guys to build up, then reach out.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of, I need to, the next 2 months, whilst we're still in this state of kind of pause, should we say, I've got some opportunity to be strategic. And then there's going to be a period of happy stress, as I would call it, which is the bookings coming back in, right? It's happening. So I won't really be able to focus on anything other than doing that. But then once we get that working again, hopefully build my team back up again, then I can go, right, what's next? And I also am grounded at the moment because I'm not traveling to Ibiza. I'm not going to Amsterdam. I'm not, you know, at the moment I can't even network in that way. And to be honest, you need that connection. Personally, I need to be in front of people to be able to tell them what we do. And obviously there's so much you can do on Zoom, which is amazing. But
that face-to-face.
The initial meeting of even just walking into a bar and restaurant with a DJ playing and saying, is the manager here? And then have a chat with the manager and saying, oh, this is what we do. That can happen, you know, but there's definitely a lot of green shoots and easy picking fruit that is already there for us. That is a phone call or it is a Zoom call to try and re-engage, and then you take it from there. So there's a lot of work to do.
No, you're right. You sound motivated, more motivated than ever. Anyway, Nathan, you're a very motivated guy. You're an inspiring guy, I must say. Me and John are getting inspiration off of this, aren't we, John?
Totally, definitely.
It's been an absolute pleasure. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Hopefully, more positive times ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Right,
cool. Look after yourself, Nathan. All right, you and the family. We'll catch you soon. All right.
All the best, guys.
Take care. Right.
See you soon. Bye.